Hi everybody. Jackie's Journey with Jackie. That's where you are right now. Horny? I don't know. I'll figure it out. So anyway, start over. Back at the flat. Had a great time at the camel farm. And now I'm going to tell you that story that I was telling you about. This is one of many. Things are very different now in my life, in my children's lives. And I want to share that. I want to share some of what we've been through, what I've been through, the journey that I've had up until this point. And we'll probably go on, who knows, if it gets cold, we'll go on to things that continue to happen. But here we are in Bahrain. I live in Bahrain, in the Middle East. We went to the camel farm today. But I want to share the story about the fish. Back when this story was happening for the first time, before it was a story, things were very different than they are now. I was the mother of 5 beautiful children, which I still am, of which I am proud. The story begins like this. At the time of this particular story, there was a lot of pressure on me, a lot of weight on my shoulders. Felt the way I would best describe it, like a backpack full of bricks, looking at going outside in the cold with ice. How am I going to do that? I have to get from A to B. I'm overloaded, I'm cold, and I'm walking on ice. It's more than I feel as though I can bear. And that's how I felt. I didn't know, how am I going to do this? And what I'm talking about is single mom with 5 kids. At the time, the oldest was 9 and the youngest was 4. And I was making probably right around $7 an hour. We lived in a little house. It was a little beach house, approximately 560 square feet. I bought that house, that's another story, for another time. We don't want this one to be too long. But I bought that house with the mindset that it's a beach house, it's old and needs a lot of repairs, so I could get it for what would amount to about a $400 a month mortgage payment. I couldn't even afford that, but that was going to be a lot closer than what a regular 3-bedroom apartment or house at that time would have been. Probably 11 or not much less than 1,100. So $400 was really good. I had 5 children. My husband and I had separated. I was now the sole caregiver and taker for these 5 children. I did not have a degree. I didn't have a dependable car. I didn't have any type of benefits with this job. This job was basically created, that's another story, and it was going to help us get by. This particular day, I had, the gas bill was due, the electric bill, the envelope was pink. Now in the state of Maryland, when you have a pink envelope for your electric bill, that means it's getting ready. So everybody that delivers your mail, if they're aware of that, they know that you're getting a cutoff notice. Maybe in your state it's something similar, or in your country, or maybe they don't tell you at all and they just cut it off. Well, we got notice, and which added more pressure. Okay, that rises to the surface of this is a high priority, or we're not going to have electricity. So that was the kind of day it was, where the bills were rising and the money that was coming in was not. I was at the point right then where I basically was on my knees saying, how am I going to do this? How am I? It was really new. I didn't know. I didn't have any idea. How am I going to do this? That was the type of weight I was feeling in my head and on my back. in my mind, I remember saying, "Do this," and all of a sudden I heard boom, 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 boom. And it was a loud boom, 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 because it caught my attention. Now, I was in this house, the kitchen is here, and then there's a little, God, what was it? 8 by maybe 20, it was like it was the length of the house, but it was only 8 feet wide, and that was like the living room. And then there was the door right there. So I had just come out of the kitchen, and I was going through that 8-foot area, and right at that point I had stopped, and I was feeling the pressure of that moment in my life and that time. And right when I was saying, how will I do this, I hear this boom, boom, boom. Now, this particular house was what is referred to as a Heckinger. Now, if you're from the D.C., Maryland, or Virginia area in the 1960s and 70s, and I'm approximate, Heckinger's was the name of what we know as Lowe's now. It was the hardware store. Well, they had what was called a prefabricated house that you could buy and build like down at the beach for your second home, which is what the people that had built this house had intended it for. It was for their vacation home where they would go and enjoy the beach and then go back to their regular home. So the house didn't have a lot of good insulation. It didn't have a lot of things, but that's why I got it for the price that I got it at. Well, one thing that it did have was doors that had the glass slots in it, slats, or whatever they're called. But anyway, they're panes of glass, and they go in these little slots, and they rack them up, and then you crank them open, and the slots open, and you crank them closed, and the slots close. Well, imagine that. It's on metal, glass, and all that. The door makes a lot of noise when you open it. When you open it, it makes noise, and when you close it, it makes noise. Well, the bang, bang, bang from what I heard outside, I remember opening the door, and this large wingspan bird flew off to the right. And when that bird flew off to the right, I felt weight from me. That weight that I was feeling, it's like it went with it. And I looked on the ground, and there was a fish. And anytime you tell a fish story, they, But I'm telling you, the fish was big, okay? I promise, it was a big fish. And one way that I believe in remembering it, that it was a big fish, is because the claw from that very big wingspan bird, it was either an eagle or an osprey, because we lived on the marsh side of the beach, and in the marsh there were the old trees, and there were a lot of nests, and we used to watch eagles and osprey all the time because they had nests out there. Well, it was one of these big birds, and on the side of the fish, on the ground that I'm looking at now, is a chunk of meat out of the side of the fish. That was the side, I knew it was from his claws that it had chunked off. So I'm looking at this fish, and this big old bird had just brought it in front of my house at the very moment that I was feeling the weight of what was in my world at that time on my shoulders. But when I saw that, I mean, immediately the weight lifted, but I burst into tears because I knew I was going to be all right. We're going to be able to do this. We were going to get this done. And the thing that changed in me at that time, and I never recall having that weight like that on my shoulders again after that, but the thing that changed in me at that time was up here. I believed that I was going to be all right, and we were going to make it. We were going to make it in this little 560 square foot house that when we bought it, I said, we're going to have a place to go. We'll get out of the cold. If it's raining, we won't get wet. We'll get cleaned up, and then we'll go out the next day and work to make things better. One thing at a time. We'll improve the car we drive. We'll improve the house that we live in. We'll improve the clothes that we wear. One day at a time, we'll make this work. And that's what I used to teach my children, that we're going to make things better. We're going to work together. And I never felt like I was alone. I always felt like me and my children worked together to make this happen. Now, obviously, I'm the mother, and I made the rules, and I made sure that they were enforced. I did the training. I made sure that they felt loved. I made sure that they understood what we believed was right and wrong, on and on. But in the end, we worked together. And that day, through that experience, I knew that in that hard time, that it was going to get better. Things are very, very different now. I live in this flat that I live in, the kitchen is about the size of the majority of the house that I had. This living room is probably the size of the house. But it's just me now. My daughter's here to visit, so that's nice. But things are very different now. All of my children are grown. They're all in their own lanes in life, and they're excelling in their own area of specialties. So if you're a single parent, or if you're going through a rough time, if things are difficult in your life, just remember that when you change your mindset and you believe that it's going to be better, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in Allah, whether you believe in humanity, whether you believe in the universe, whatever you believe in, that's your business. And that's a personal thing, and I respect that. But just remember that the fact that you believe that it's going to be better, it's going to help make you better. I believe that wholeheartedly, because my life is very different. I've got many, many more stories like that, which is why I'm doing this blog. I need to get this blog done so that I can get my book written. And thank you for spending this time with me, and we'll see you again next time. Oh shit. I didn't tell him. Yeah, I need to tell him this.
No, I haven't turned it off.
Oh. Every time I tell that story, and this is probably happening now, people ask me the same question. Did you eat the fish? No, I didn't eat the fish. I was on my knees sobbing and thanking who I believed in, because I knew that the fact that my mind now was changed, everything was going to be okay. The bird brought the fish at the time that I needed it to. I'll be fine. So no, I didn't eat the fish. The bird came back and got the fish, I guess. It left, but it did what it was sent to do. And that's all for now. This is Jackie's Journey with Jackie. I'll see you next time.